do you want to start Naruto with me? Do you want to start the first season over? And she's like, yeah, we could totally do that. So our first date was literally grabbing pizza, and we sat on my futon, ate pizza, and watched Naruto. Like, it was the perfect first date for me personally. I can't speak for her, but we're married now, so I'm assuming it went well.
Seems like it worked. Hi everyone, I'm Alex, and I help shy introverted nerds get over their fears and anxieties to find their player 2. Today I bring you Phillip, a nerd who found his player 2, and we're going to talk about how they ended up together. The idea is to address some of your questions, dispel some myths, and hear about the many different ways that nerds can find real relationships. Phillip, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So I can see the Funko Pops right behind you, but I want to ask, like, what do you think makes you a nerd? Like, why do you identify as a nerd?
So what identifies me as a nerd is loving everything that nerds love: video games, anime, manga, Funko Pops, the things that were technically considered unpopular when we were kids. I'm assuming I say 30 plus year old people. We used to get bullied for reading GameStop magazine at school or whatever, and now it's like the super popular thing. So that kind of, it ties back to my roots, I guess, is what I would say.
Cool. Awesome. So speaking of your roots, where does your story with your partner start?
So I had recently moved to Montgomery, Alabama. I was kind of dating in the local area, and I didn't find anybody who quite met me on my terms. Being a nerd, somebody who's like, I don't deal well in social environments. I'm not a big crowd person. I don't like big crowds. I don't like going out too much. If I could live and work in my own home right here, this would be ideal. But people from Alabama, Montgomery area, they're very social people. They like going out, having a lot of fun, drinking, and that type of thing. And that's not for me. So it was really hard to find somebody who could accept me for being me, somebody who would prefer to stay in and watch, first season of Naruto over and over again, or maybe The Office, you know what I mean? Not go out and party at the club or drink or anything like that.
Yeah. So what were the reactions that you were getting from people that you were meeting?
It was mixed. Some people were like, oh no, I'm totally cool with staying inside and watching anime or watching, movies, or, sitting around and reading manga or whatever the case may be, or playing video games together. I'm totally cool with that. But when the rubber met the road, it was like, oh wait, you're a little too nerdy for me. Like you're full deep into this thing, and I'm not at that level. I respect it, but it's not really for me.
Mm-hmm. So you were looking for someone to share it with, not just someone who would accept it.
Correct.
Right.
I was looking for somebody who would share the passion that I have for all things nerdy. And that's kind of when Darcy entered the scene.
Okay. What happened?
In the digital age, Tinder, Bumble, all those dating apps out there, they just swipe. And one day sitting at work, I got a match, and I was like, oh, cool. Who is it? And it was this really nerdy looking girl. She would laugh at me, and she'd probably give me some heckling for that. But I was like, cool, yeah, I could totally see us hanging out. And I reached out, and she lived up in Birmingham, which is about an hour drive. And I was working nights. So I was like, hey, if you wouldn't mind, would you drive this way? We can hang out, go maybe grab some food. And she was like, I prefer to stay in. I said,
You're a girl.
Perfect. Me too. Exactly. I was like, well, okay, well, what would you want to do? And she's like, I don't care. We could do anything. I was like, do you want to start Naruto with me? Do you want to start the first season over? And she's like, yeah, we could totally do that. So our first date was literally grabbing pizza. She came over, and we sat on my futon, because I was still growing into having my, what I have now. And we sat on my futon, ate pizza, and watched Naruto. Like, it was the perfect first date for me personally. I can't speak for her, but we're married now, so I'm assuming it went well.
Seems like it worked.
Yeah, it definitely worked. And, it just kind of took off from there. Hanging out, watching movies, watching, anime. We started Bleach together. She had never seen Bleach, and Bleach is one of my all-time favorites. And I was like, oh, you have to watch Bleach. Like, it's such a good anime. And she's a Disney girl, so it worked perfectly, because when we were kind of bored, or not, maybe not bored, but when we were kind of fed up with anime, we could switch over to Disney movies. And I appreciate that because it's something different, and it gives it a different pace,
Right. I love it. So dating apps are usually very frustrating for everybody, both
Yes.
nerds and regular people.
Exactly.
And I mean, maybe frustrating in different ways. Like some people will say, I don't like the matches that I get. Some people will say I get no matches. I have heard from many people saying, as soon as I mention my hobbies or my interests, that's a turnoff. Right?
Yeah.
And you're mentioning that some people said, "Oh, I'm cool with that, just not that deep."
Correct.
How are you feeling about dating apps up until when you found her?
I was really burnt out on it.
Yeah.
I went for a moment there. I actually deleted everything. I disconnected from the world. I focused on solely doing my job and working towards my goals as a human being. And I was like, the right person will come along when it's time. And, people, we as people, we're social creatures for the most part. Being with somebody and having that relationship and connection to somebody is a need in our lives. And I got to that point again where I felt the need to have somebody join me on this journey. And I was like, okay, well, let's try this again. And, it was a rinse and repeat until Darcy showed up. And from there, it's just been good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really glad, because it's hard to explain to people, like, yeah, dating apps do work. They take time, and you should be careful how much you spend, because otherwise you can get burnt out. And it's not like you're going to find, mostly you're not going to find people that are like you, because you're not sharing any type of anything, right? You're not sharing the same friends. You're not sharing the same circles. You're not sharing anything. And what many people do is they hide their nerd side, right? And they're like, well, at what point do I tell this person that I like anime? It's like, well, if you think it's an issue, then it's going to be an issue, right? Like, at least in my case, when I'm meeting someone and I will mention, like, oh, I play video games, I like anime, whatever. I usually say I watch cartoons because it sounds funny, especially for people who don't know that. I'm like, oh, I'm just watching cartoons. If they're not into that stuff, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
They can ask, or they can say, oh, I love this thing. And then we'll take it from there, which is great. If they don't, I'll just move on.
Yeah.
And that works for me, right? I have gotten people laughing, like, oh, like, that's so childish. Yeah, it's really childish. Ha ha ha. Move on. I don't care. It's fine. But I do feel like some people who get rejected because of that, and that's based on them, right? Would be there because they want to dive very deep into that, and the other person is not really interested, or they feel very ashamed about that. They're like, oh, what I'm doing is wrong, right? Do you resonate with any of those options, or were you just like, I like this stuff and I want someone who does this, and I don't care about how it's perceived?
Yeah, it definitely resonates with me, because for a while there, I wasn't being true to myself. I was masking who I truly was to try to fit into what is a social normal. And while some of it rings true, like, I'm a huge sneaker fan. I love Jordans. I love collecting sneakers. And that is considered normal in today's society. Watching anime, watching reruns of the Justice League, or reading comic books, and, reading the one comic book over and over again because it's just like, it's the best thing ever. People don't look at it like that. When you say, I love, reading manga, I love the Dot Hack series, or whatever it may be, people look at that and like, huh? What do you mean? And so, yeah, I definitely understand where people could see that, you have to hide who you truly are. And I wish people would not do that because they're just hurting themselves at the end. It's kind of like an identity crisis. You know what I mean? So just be your true, authentic self and don't be apologetic for it.
Yeah. I think that's a really important difference, which is something that I realized doing these interviews, that maybe people were saying like, oh, just be yourself. And I hate that, because you can say like, oh, I myself, I'm like shy, introverted, I'm afraid to talk to people, I'm anxious, whatever it is, right? That's me. But you nailed it. Like, because I was like, you should be true to yourself and be happy with who you are and be proud of it and not be afraid to show it. Because like you were saying, like you're looking for someone to share this stuff with. You're finding people who would put up with it, which is not the same, right?
Correct.
And after a lot of trial and error, you ended up finding someone who was literally saying like, I don't want to go out. Let's just stay in and watch something. When I watched Naruto, yes. Great.
Exactly. And funny part of that is, you know, the first date, texting back and forth because we were brave enough to exchange numbers. She was like, she led because she likes, you know, murder mysteries and that type of stuff. And I remember the first text she asked me was like, are you a serial killer? And I was like, absolutely not. I am probably the furthest thing from that. In fact, I'm more scared of you than you are with me.
Okay, let's talk about that. So what were you afraid of?
I had a lot of bad experiences with dating. It was, you know, the money aspect. So a lot of people date for status. And I'm just a human being. I'm just a regular guy. You know, I run a small business. I do what I do. And at the end of the day, they were like, well, if you can't provide X, Y, Z for me, I don't want you. And hey, that's perfectly fine. If that's your prerogative, totally cool. I personally don't like that. And I don't want to be around people like that. That's okay. But Darcy was completely different. You know, she didn't care. You know, I told her the story of moving to Montgomery. And when I first got to this city and this state, I had nothing. I was sleeping on the floor with just a blanket and a pillow with my phone as an alarm to get up for work every morning. You know, working with just eating ramen and bread for weeks at a time, waiting for paychecks to come in because I had nothing. And she was totally fine with it.
27?
Correct. Yeah. And it was like a hard reset button, you know. I went from a military career where I had everything provided for me. I was told what time to get up, what time to do whatever I needed to do, to being an adult by myself for the first time. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot harder than I expected. And she was supportive through it. You know, she helped me pick things out. She's, you know, helped me decide on what clothing looks good and what shoes go with what outfit and just things like that, to where she was more of a support role that I needed. And, you know, in video games, it's like you always need a support. You need that healer. You need somebody who's going to cast the support spells to push you through your journey. Yeah. And that's exactly what she did for me. And here we are again, like I'm building everything around me, and she helps a lot.
Yeah. It's more looking for a partner who's on equal grounds with you, on an equal level, more than something. I mean, you can argue that a stay-at-home spouse also puts a lot of effort, especially like when you start having kids.
Correct. Yeah.
But at least in the beginning, with like on the dating stage, if someone is expecting the other person to pay for everything and whatnot, it's not such an equal ground, let's just say. I mean, as long as they both agree on the exchange, totally fine, great. But it's a cultural thing, I believe, even within the same culture. Like it's who you grew up surrounded with. I'm from Argentina. I grew up with like very strong feminist friends. And for me, it was like, you do not pay for anything. You do not open the door. You do not do this. You do not do that. And that was like the rule. And once I started traveling around, I was like, oh, there's actually other people who see things differently and who expect other things, right? And even in Argentina itself, like once I started meeting people outside of my own circle, I started seeing how other people see things, right? So that's why I'm quite against all the generalizations of like, why do men this? Why do women that? Why, whatever it is, because it really depends who you have been interacting with and where you were and like what circle you were moving in, right? So yeah, I can totally see how like saying I don't even have a bed, I have no money, I have nothing in a society, or at least especially like on Tinder or dating apps, right? Where many people, in your case would be women, would expect, oh, like he has to pay for the date or whatever. So she came over for the first date. And you guys, you said, or pizza and watched Naruto?
Correct.
Yeah. How did the date go?
I thought it went fine. I remember, it had started to get late. She still had an hour drive back home. Obviously, I'd offer to, you can sleep in the bed if you'd like. I could sleep on the couch, however the case may be. And we can figure that all out later. You can drive home in the morning. She's like, no, I need to get home. I've got work in the morning, yada, yada. Cool. No problem. So, the date ended with just a quick little hug. I mean, it was just, a little thanks for coming over, because I'm super shy, and, physical touch for me was not a big thing. Like, it's not something that I seek. And for her, it was just like, she is a physical touch person. She likes physical touch. So for her, a hug was just probably very like disappointing. But for me, that was way outside my comfort zone. And it just ended like that. And, I texted her to make sure she got home on time, got home safe. Hey, just making sure you made it home, please. Just let me know before I go to sleep, because I'd hate for anything to happen. And, a week later, I think we had another date. And then finally it was, hey, let's go out and get pizza or something, or because I'm a huge pizza fan. Let's go get some food, whatever the case may be. And it was just a quick kiss on the cheek and put her in her car, and she drove back home, and that was that.
That is funny. So when she left after the first date, did you consider it a successful date?
I did.
Okay.
I thought it went well. I thought, it was exactly what I would have pictured for a perfect first date, just enjoying something that I personally enjoyed, and she didn't seem to have any qualms about it. Yeah. So I was like, hey, sounds good to me. And again, like I said, we're here, so I'm assuming it went well all the way through.
Did you feel like you should have gone faster or needed to go faster in any way? I'm just thinking, because recently, like a few days ago, I think you saw it, I shared a thread on Threads, a post on Threads, about how in the past I used to go on a date, even a first date, even a coffee date, and I had this thing that like, you have to get a kiss. You have to get the kiss, at least. You have to get that. Whether you like her or not, it doesn't really matter, right? And I'm like, you're like, I want to go slower. I want to take my time. Now I'm nomadic, so I don't really have that luxury. So I have to learn to be comfortable going a bit faster. But I still prefer going slow. And it took me very long time to say, okay, I want to go on a date. The only goal is to meet this person and to just get to know them and to hopefully have a good time. If I don't have a good time, then at least I have a good story. So I'm wondering if you had something like that, of like, at least in your experience, like you were going on dates and they expected you to pay, or they expected you to have money. Did you have something similar for like how fast or how far you should go on a date, the first date?
Growing up, that was the big thing, is like, if it's a good first date, it ends with a kiss. Yeah. And I agree with what you're saying and what you have said. But for me, my expectations have never been that much. I've never stopped to think like, this is how this has to play out. I do, in all situations, but dating specifically, sit there and after everything's said and done, do a little playback of, oh man, I said this. I probably sound like an idiot. Like, she probably thinks I'm some dummy just because I said that, or, I mispronounced a word here, just a play-by-play of what exactly transpired.
Yeah.
Because again, things go by so quickly that you're just in the moment. Like, I'm sure we'll do it here where I sit here and watch the playback and I'm like, I wish I would have said this a little bit differently. And it was the same situation with that. Was, maybe we should have watched Bleached, or maybe we should have watched, she likes fruits baskets. Maybe we should have watched that. Something she was more happy to watch than Naruto. Maybe she just said yes to appease me.
Yeah.
Things like that, yeah, definitely popped up in my mind. Like, I wonder what I could have done better, if I could have done anything better.
Yeah. After that first date, you asked her to let you know when she got home. I'm guessing she texted you, "I'm home."
Mhm.
Did you wait a few days until you texted again, or do you remember how that went?
No, I didn't wait a few days. I believe in open communication and good communication,
Okay.
because I can't stand playing games. Like, video games are fine, but emotional games are not.
Yes.
I remember texting her the next morning, "Good morning. I had an awesome time. Hope you did too. I can't wait to see you again. Is there any time that works best for you? Would you like me to come up your way next time? Are you comfortable coming down here?" Kind of lining up what to expect for the future. What can we, was it a good enough date to where you were comfortable coming back and doing a second one? Or do you feel like maybe you wasted your time? I was kind of getting a gauge of how
Right.
she felt. Waiting 2 or 3 days to me is just, that can fall by the wayside. Just be open and honest.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned 3, 4 dates until a kiss on the cheek.
Mhm.
I'm just surprised that to you was the sort of the pivot point, right? My culture, Argentina, everybody kisses on the cheek to greet, like men, women, everybody, right? So to
Mhm.
me, that's if I've met you for 5 seconds, then when we say goodbye, it's kiss on the cheek, period.
For sure.
Do you know if she thought that you guys were going way too slow? Do you know if she had any thoughts about that? Has she ever said it took you 4 dates to just give me a kiss on the cheek?
I don't know that we've ever really seriously talked about it.
Okay.
I know that it's come up that she respects that I am very analytical about things. So taking my time with things and really gauging things is a strong point for me, and she appreciates it.
During those first 4 dates, did you communicate that you wanted to go slow or that you were not too comfortable with physical touch? No, she just took it normal,
Nope.
just kept going.
Yeah, she was very I did explain to her that I had a lot of anxiety
Good.
from the military, and a lot of, crowds aren't my thing. I kind of explained where I was sitting at on the bench, basically. Putting my benchmark there is like, I have anxiety. I deal with a lot of issues with trust and issues with making sure that we're going to be a good fit and all this other stuff. So if I do move rather slow, if at any point, that was another thing. And if at any point I make you uncomfortable, please let me know. If there's anything that I do that, you don't appreciate or you don't like, let me know. That way I can try to make sure that I don't do it again. Because with dating culture, especially in today's society and today's world, it's, you get some creepy people out there, both men and women.
Everyone. Yeah.
Pushy people who are trying to, everybody, and you get those people who are like try to move way too quick. Go for a first kiss in 30 seconds, and it's like, whoa, like, calm down there, big fella,
Yeah.
chill. I was very open and honest with just that I may move a little bit slower than most.
When did you mention that? Ish.
Probably during the the talking back and forth on Tinder, like,
Before the
hey,
date.
correct.
Great.
Yeah, before any kind of dating, I was like, hey, this is kind of who I am, take it or leave it kind of thing. I can't change myself. I can't make my anxiety go away. I can't speed things up. I can't slow things down. This is just my pace. And that, I think that is another reason why we were so compatible in the beginning, is because very open and honest communication.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's something really important that you clarify this, because many people will say how did you not get friend zoned after the third date, right? How did she think that you actually wanted something? Or people might say, how could you tell someone about your insecurities or whatever, even before meeting in person? And I like that sure, you were anxious, but you were also comfortable with saying, hey, this is me. I am anxious. And if you want to be with me, just know that this is what you can expect. And you found someone who said yes to that. That's what she found. And that's what she liked.
Exactly.
That's great. I've seen a lot of people who say that they can't stand going so fast. They're like, where do I find someone who wants to go slower? No, everybody wants to go way too fast on dating apps. Which, sure, I mean, like percentage-wise, that might be true. I have no idea. I don't have the numbers. But the truth is if you are clear with what you want, how you are, and who you are, and you show it to the other person, sure, you'll get rejected plenty of times, but that means that you're avoiding major issues, right?
Yeah.
And some people might be pushy, like you said, but oftentimes it could just, again, be cultural, right? I mentioned on a different interview that I was at not a convention, like a festival for digital nomads, and with people from all over the world, and a woman texted on WhatsApp that some men were making some women uncomfortable. And I pointed out that we have people from all over the world here. We need to know what it is that those guys were doing, right? Because like it could be me, it could be a friend, I have no idea. And just as an example, I asked someone at the table, I said, you're from Ukraine. How do you feel about physical touch? She's like, well, friendly is fine. Okay, let's define friendly. And I'm like, okay, shoulder, fine. Upper arm, fine. Knee, no. Okay. I looked at a friend of mine, Mexican, right next to me. I was like, well, what do you think? And I just put my hand on her knee. She's like, yeah, it's fine. Like, I knew she would be fine with it, right? But what for one person is a transgression, for the other person might be totally normal. And I think it's great that you actually put it out there and said, look, this is me. Like, this is how fast I want to go. And if you're cool with that, then let's hang out, right? So I just think that's fantastic, because maybe people are afraid of that. It's what do women, men, whoever want or expect, and the truth is they can expect anything.
Exactly.
You can expect something different. She can expect something different. But if you just said, if you had open communication, like what you're saying is, you're already telling, this is what I expect, this is where I am, and you can take it or leave it. Hopefully you'll take it. So that's fantastic. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Don't be afraid to be yourself. There's somebody out there that's looking for you, you specifically. They're looking for you, your personality, your quirks, your traits, everything about you. They would absolutely love it. Be fair to yourself, be true to yourself, and share your inner self with that person. Don't be afraid of the rejection. It's okay. It's normal. I'm still afraid to this day to be rejected. But do yourself the favor and really be the person you want to be, because they're going to respect it. Again, player 2, they're waiting for you. You might be their player 2.
Fantastic. So I know you have a business and you're building a community. Do you want to tell people about that?
Sure. Darcy is very supportive of this. And that's another wonderful thing about her, is that she supports me in my dreams. So find you somebody who supports you. We are Nerd Stuff of Alabama. We sell Funko Pops primarily for now. We're a collectibles store. And we sell Funko Pops, and we're trying to build our community. We're trying to find people who are passionate about video games and streaming and content creation, art. We literally have recently just built a Discord server that has something for everybody. We have something for cosplayers. If you like manga, if you like anime, comic books, we have it all. There's a collectibles section. There's something for everyone. That's kind of our goal, is to build a community built on passion. And hopefully we can support them in their collectible needs, as you can see behind me.
Yeah.
we're excited to be here. We're excited to see what the future holds. We hope more people will join us. And who knows, you could find your player 2 in our community. That'd be something cool. That'd be awesome. You see this, you join our community, you find, your spouse, and you make a wonderful life together. And that'd be really cool to see.
What's your handle? Where can people find you?
So we're primarily focused on the threads currently, where you and I actually met, which thank you for reaching out and thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming.
But nerd_stuff_of_al. You can also find us at alnerdstuff.com. All of our handles are over there as well. But threads is our kind of meat and potatoes. We're growing a big community there. We're getting a lot of feedback and a lot of love.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Phillip. So everyone else, if you have any questions that I haven't made to him or to past guests and that you want me to do in the future, or if you have questions for Phillip, just let me know. Maybe he can come back and he can answer them, or I can ask someone else. So let me know in the comments. Send me an email at dm@rolltoday.com, or you can find me on pretty much everywhere at Roll2Date. Thank you. Take care.